Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name has an ending that feels like it was decades in the making for main protagonist Kazuma Kiryu. To celebrate the upcoming release of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I thought it would take part in the One Last Scene initiative started by Nando v Movies and break down why, in my opinion, Gaiden's last moments are fantastic not only for the game itself, but its main character. Go check out the playlist for the other videos in this trend, I'm sure they'll be way better than mine. Before we talk about Gaiden though, we need to go a bit back. Too far! That is too far! Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, back in 2016 was the first true step the series took to the next gen, aka the PlayStation 4. The new Dragon engine used the power of next gen to give their games a greater sense of immersion, where you can now seamlessly walk into buildings and fights, a new combat system that included ragdoll properties for everyone, and a presentation overhaul where both cutscenes and gameplay look and feel way more realistic and cinematic than ever before. The Like a Dragon series has been widely known to have a tourism aspect to them, a virtual slice of Japan realized, and with the Dragon engine's capabilities, the level of quality shot up dramatically. This game was also billed as the finale to the Kiryu Kazuma saga, and Beat Takeshi was in it. Do I need to spell it out? This isn't a Yakuza 5 situation where there are 5 protagonists, multiple different cities, and an all-encompassing plot where the story shoves down the meaning of dreams down your throat until you just want to No, Yakuza 6's narrative is not cluttered in that sense. It's just odd. On its own, it's a solid narrative which has the same level of quality that you can expect from the series. As Kiryu's send-off game at the time though, it's a bit strange. There's barely any supporting cast from previous entries that do anything for the narrative because they're all in prison. Kiryu's adopted daughter Haruka is mostly absent and barely has a couple of lines except for Oji-san. And a finale where the main character not only does a sacrifice play when the story has multiple moments highlighting how it doesn't work, but a bait and switch where a speech Kiryu writes that summarizes the themes of the story is given not to his daughter, but Daigo Dojima, a character that basically exists just to get shot or thrown in jail and somehow is the chairman of the Tojo clan from Kiryu. Yakuza 2 was like a while ago, man. Yakuza 2, I don't want to explain it. Now, I actually like this ending more than other people. It is still a solid conclusion that gives Kiryu an out that I don't hate, but it's hard to deny that some of the choices taken here feel like they almost undermine the rest of the story, partially amplified by a lack of his original supporting cast. There's nothing wrong with having a finale like this for a long-running character. I consider Logan, for example, a beautiful mature send-off for Hugh Jackman's portrayal as Wolverine, where most of the X-Men are dead or absent except for Captain Picard, who also gets an ending himself. Sensing a pattern of talking about endings that are now invalid. Strange. Stephen Strange. It mostly comes down to execution, and I think for as cinematic and grand 6 wants to be, it unfortunately misses the mark in some key areas. When Gaiden and Infinite Wealth were announced and it was revealed that Kiryu was coming back, a part of me felt apprehensive. How could you bring a character you already gave an ending back for another round? What more could this character be doing that justifies a return? After playing Gaiden, I have egg on my face. Not from you. Gaiden's story, specifically its finale, feel tailor-made for Kiryu, acting as both a second ending to his character's journey up until now and a neat setup for Infinite Wealth. The main story takes place during the events of Yakuza 7, coinciding with Ichiban's story in that game. Kiryu, in an effort to guarantee his family's safety after exposing the secret of Onomichi, don't even get me started! He agreed to die and disappear from the world. To keep tabs on Kiryu, the government forces him to join the Daidoji, becoming a secret spy with the new codename Joryu. It's almost as if his name was erased. Oh! In 7, one of the big mysteries is finding out why the Tojo clan, the Yakuza group that Kiryu and Ichiban were a part of, are seemingly disbanded and taken over by the Omi Alliance, which eventually leads to Ichiban and the gang helping the previous Yakuza characters dismantle the Yakuza because it got out of hand and the laws have made it virtually impossible for it to continue on, which was planned by Ichiban's surrogate but maybe real Look, just play 7, it's great. For Kiryu, his last act in 6 was guiding Daigo to save the Tojo clan from going to war, and now all he has left is the orphanage he can never visit, a grandson and daughter he can never see, and a life he can never go back to. When you lose everything, even your name, who are you? What drives you to keep going? Kiryu's journey to answer this question leads to arguably the best finale these games have had. It isn't as bombastic as 5's, or as epic as 0's, but it hits that sweet middle ground where the plot and the story weave together. Not only do we get a full fight with the boys side by side, but the finale with Shishido perfectly rounds off Kiryu's arc. Shishido represents the old school Yakuza, the kind of life that Kiryu was once a part of. Both Kiryu and Shishido look for strength and power, but Kiryu, over the course of the series, has grown and discovered true strength isn't gained purely through the Yakuza life. His time racing the kids in Morning Glory, and the connections he has made outside the Yakuza, have shown him what it really means to get to the top. Shishido could never understand that, because he was never given the chance to, living a hellish life before joining the Yakuza. To Shishido, it's the Yakuza or nothing. To Kiryu, you don't need the Yakuza to live. It's a thrilling juxtaposition, and what makes this fight incredible. Kiryu and Shishido starting from the top of the Omi Alliance and moving back outside is a perfect metaphor for Kiryu beating the Yakuza life. A true test of strength and ideals where both characters fight for the dream. Wait a minute. Wait, this is just Yakuza 5. They did Yakuza 5 again. What the f? After this last fight, what follows is, of course, the last scene of the game. And boy is it a tearjerker. For starters, voice actor Takeo Kuroda, who has played Kiryu ever since 2005, absolutely crushes this moment where he sees his kids from the orphanage all grown up. He hasn't seen them in over 3 years, and if you want to count Yakuza 5, he hasn't had a proper week with the kids from Morning Glory since 2012. His breakdown when hearing what they're all up to now is powerful, and doesn't work without Kuroda's performance. Speaking of acting, the direction of this scene is gripping. The way we don't cut to Kiryu's face initially, only seeing his perspective of watching the video on the iPad as the tears fall, and then cutting just at the right moment to reveal a sobbing mess. It's a powerful moment that locks the player into Kiryu's headspace and where he's at emotionally. All he's ever wanted was to be at Morning Glory helping raise the kids, but because of his Yakuza past and need to fix everything himself, he could never stay for as long as he would have wished to. After all the struggle and hardships, after all the losses and suffering he has gone through, he didn't know if he was a good influence or not. To see his kids, well, 2 of them, not only are all grown up, but show that they don't need him to protect them anymore, is the first time I think in the series Kiryu has had a proper, definitive look at how his actions have helped the people he cares about, and realizes how much he needed those kids more than they needed him. The ultimate dad moment. Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name is a side game, a glorified DLC that pales in comparison to the length of a typical Like a Dragon game. Yet, I found myself locked into the story as much, if not more so, than any other entry. To me, that is a testament to the studio and the creatives behind it. This is their flagship series. Their studio is named after these games. This moment highlights how deeply they care and understand their characters that they spend over decades telling stories about. I think that's why I love this series, and why I love this one last scene.